Natalie didn't stop running until she skidded through the supermarket doors, where the warmth and brightness calmed her. Panting, she pushed back her hood and shook out her ponytail. Then she took off her glasses and wiped them on her sweatshirt with trembling hands. In all her life, she'd never done anything as stupid as diving into traffic without looking. Her heart was pounding and her legs felt weak, but at the same time she wanted to laugh. Among the familiar carts and bickering families doing their food shopping, her fear seemed silly. She almost expected the weird wrapper the old man had insisted upon calling a spell to be gone. But when she checked, it was still in her pocket on top of Itzy's box. She pulled it out, stared for a moment at the shifting colors, then put it back again. Jo was coming over later. Maybe she'd know what it was. Natalie made her way slowly through the crowded aisles until she found her stepmother scratching her head over a long shopping list. "Julie," she said, "I was just outside, and—" "Natalie! What happened? What took you so long? I sent Timothy out to look for you." Her stepmother's face assumed that look of concern adults tended to give Natalie from time to time. "You look awfully pale, dear. I do hope you're not coming down with something." The story of the old man and his spell was on Natalie's lips, but the whole thing seemed so pathetic now. It wasn't as if she was 5 years old anymore. "I'm just cold," she mumbled. "And no wonder, you're soaked through. Are you sure you're feeling all right? I don't want you catching pneumonia." Julie's hands found her forehead. People were starting to stare. She pulled away, embarrassed. "I'm fine," she said, then bit her lip. Julia?" "Did you notice the new recycling bin?" But her stepmother was frowning at her list again, pushing a wisp of hair behind her ear. "What was that, dear?" she said distractedly. "A new bin, did you say? That's good. We have to hurry. Be quick now, or your father will be wondering where we are. Can you be a darling and find some salt? Big container, you know, the one with the blue stripes?" Normally, Natalie enjoyed the challenge of finding awkward items, especially when the supermarket changed the shelves around, as they had this week. But today, her thoughts kept drifting to the crazy old man and his spell bank. She found herself wandering along aisles she didn't recognize, bumping into bad-tempered people in dripping raincoats. They scowled at her as if the rotten weather and the fact that they couldn't find anything were her fault. To make matters worse, a grubby boy with red hair and holes in his jeans seemed to be following her, stopping to look hard at something on the shelf every time she turned to scowl at him. The hairs on the back of Natalie's neck rose. She kept her hand firmly in her pocket with Itzy in the wrapper. The redhead looked like just the sort of boy who would sneak up behind you and try to steal something. Whenever she turned fast enough to catch him looking at her, his eyes made her shudder. They seemed so desperate. She was so busy keeping one eye out for the boy and the other for salt she didn't see Tim until she grabbed her arm. "What have you got in your pocket, sis?" he hissed in her ear, nearly bringing on her second heart attack of the day. Tim only ever called her sis when he wanted to be cruel. His blonde curls were plastered to the collar of his birthday jacket like wet straw, and raindrops shimmered on the shiny black leather. The jacket looked a lot more waterproof than her own windbreaker, but Tim obviously didn't see it that way. "I'll bet you thought that was funny, didn't you?" he went on. "Letting me search the whole parking lot for you, when all along you were hiding here where it's dry. Come on, sis, show me." Natalie caught the red-headed boy staring again and made a face at him. "It's nothing," she said. "Funny nothing," Tim scowled. He must have thought she'd been making the face at him. His nails dug painfully into her wrist as he dragged her hand out of her pocket. "It's that stupid spider of yours, ain't it?" he said with a smirk. "You actually brought it shopping. Aren't you worried it might escape and get stepped on?" One by one he forced her fingers open. Natalie squirmed, but her stepbrother was more than a year older than her and a lot stronger. Shoppers frowned at them, but pushed their carts past and pretended not to see. She began to wish she'd just left Itzy at home and risked her dad finding him and stepping on him, just as he'd stepped on her last spider. "That hurts, Tim," she said, fighting tears. "Stop it! If you let him out in here, there'll be a riot." "And whose fault will that be?" Tim bent back her last finger. Natalie blinked in surprise. She'd been certain it was Itzy's box in her hand, but it was the old man's spell. Beneath the fluorescent lights, the colors glimmered brighter than ever. A strange heat crept up her arms and tingled in her toes. Vaguely, she became aware of the red-headed boy creeping closer, his desperate eyes fixed on her hand. The shelves blurred and shifted. Everyone seemed to be moving in slow motion, as if they were underwater. Huh? Tim dropped her wrist in disgust. The supermarket snapped back into focus. The wrapper fluttered to the floor, and the red-headed boy dove after it. Natalie's blood rose with the strange determination that had come over her in the parking lot. She flung herself on top of the boy and wrestled with him among all the feet and shopping cart wheels. They both made a grab for the wrapper at the same time, and for a second their eyes met over the glimmering, shifting colors. "Please," whispered the boy. "If you don't let me have it, he'll—" The rest of the words were lost in the blinding purple flash. Someone screamed, "Fireworks!" Natalie's stomach clenched. The boy let go. Quickly, she pushed the wrapper back into her pocket. In the resulting purple smoke, a foot knocked her glasses askew. Stars exploded in her head, cans rattled and rolled, and a sick smell of burnt sugar forced her to cover her nose. By the time she climbed to her feet and rescued her glasses, Tim was fidgeting over by the checkouts, where Julie had just reached the front of the line. The red-headed boy had vanished, leaving Natalie to face the aisle full of furious shoppers looking for someone to blame for their overturned carts and spilled food. "Sorry," she said, backing out of the melee. "I must have tripped. Sorry." An employee came hurrying along to disperse the crowd that, in the absence of physical evidence, had begun to argue about what they'd seen. Natalie seized the opportunity to slip away. Her legs trembled as she joined Julie and Tim at the checkout, but inside she was fuming. Imagine setting off a firework in the middle of a busy supermarket on a Saturday morning. The redhead must be an idiot. They were halfway home before she discovered that, in all the confusion, Itzy had escaped.